If you still don't know about this topic, I think we have another DAs in our booth so that you can go there and ask about the specific topic. I'm going to talk to you about how you can sell or what you need to do to offer your digital subscriptions or digital content in different countries. So of course we can, for example, if you are planning to sell something on other countries, you need to know at least some, what I call internationalization 101. So what you need to know, what you need to make sure your app is doing so you can offer for in different countries from your current language and currency, something like that. So basically, what you need to do first is prepare your app for internationalization so that you can make sure that everything's okay, that other users with different languages will understand, are going to be able to read that. Then you need to define your targeted audience and potential countries. I'm going to speak a little bit more about this on the following slides. But basically, it's understand the cultural fit of your application, if it's not offensive, if it's the content, it's really relevant for that region, something like that. Then please use a professional translation service. Of course, Google Translator is an amazing application, but maybe it's not the best option if you are translating your app for, regional audience, because we know that sometimes the translation is too literal, or it means other stuff, other thing. Probably you hear from most of you maybe understand this because we are not probably English native speakers. So when you see something, for example, I'm Brazilian, so many times I've seen people using translator and, for example, barbecue sauce, they translated to kill the Barbie, like matar a Barbie. So it's very different stuff, so please use professional translation services. And then at the end, we're going to talk about the correct price and distribution model for different areas, different regions. So basically, remember to support different languages and cultures. When I say this is because sometimes we, in general, tend to think that everybody, for example, reads from the left to right, and it's not true. So we have a lot of people that reads the right to left. So you must prepare your layout to that. So you must think ahead about it, because sometimes, for example, if they are using this, they will like just flip the orientation, and it's not enough. You need to think about, for example, the kind of images you are using on it, the images on the correct side, the color is correct. So one thing, of course, like I said, support different locales also. So if you're not using yet the XML, the strings resource in all your strings, or at least the main strings that you're showing, please start doing this yesterday, because it's one of the basic stuff to start migrating your app to support different countries. Of course, probably you also need to support not just the strings XML, but for example, you need to use the numbers in a correct way. Again, for example, in US, they use dot, the point, to be the decimal separator. In Brazil, for example, it's a comma. So if you show incorrect vision, people can be confused by what the number they are saying. They are seeing like 1,000, or they're seeing 1.0. So this is the big difference. Sometimes you need to pay attention to this. Like, seems a very small detail, but if you are offering something to sell, can be a very big challenge, right? So we have like so I put here some bullet points to remember, like use a single set of flexible layouts. So again, your layouts must be flexible, but at some point you must have like options for alternative. In this case, what I'm calling alternative is like the right to left. So imagine that layout also will be used in the opposite direction. Remember how the users can have different colors or images or sizes on that. So support again right to left text. Use and system provide formats for dates. Please don't it's common to see we trying to format using string format or other stuff. It's cool, it's easier sometimes, but remember, each country has different ways to represent, for example, date. Again, US, I think only them use this like month, day, and year. But the other countries use day, month, and year. So instead of like trying to understand like if and then creating the date, use the resource from the system and just show the date, and the system will show to the user according to their preference. So, because sometimes, for example, I use my phone in English, but to formats, I prefer to use the Brazilian format. So if you try to just get the locate or the system locate, you're probably going to show me the information on the English format, and I prefer to see in the regular format. So use the system format instead of you by yourself trying to guess what the user prefers and show. So this is why we use the systems. Include a full set of default resources. This kind of sounds to be obvious, right? Because okay, you need to give at least the default options, but sometimes people forget that and just put on the language specific the resource, and if it's not English, it's okay because it's on the language specific. But when this language is not supported by the app and try to use default, you can have a runtime error, like okay, you don't have this string and the app will crash. And sometimes it's a very simple error, but can take you like some time to figure out what's happening, because we could not imagine that you forgot one string on default resource. So you always start by the default and then export to another language-specific resource. And check the localization checklist at developer.android.com. We have like a set of this localization checklist. It's good because then you can like go point by point and see if you remember to do to check everything that's there. So okay, this is the part I remember to the layout, I tested, and everything else. And by the way, if you have any question in time, they gave me this thing I can throw to you, but I hope I don't miss you or just hit you. But if you have any question in time, just raise your hand, we can talk instead of waiting until the end. Maybe you can forget your question. So maybe this is kind of obvious for if you are like you are experienced Android developer, but it's always good to remember that you can use the qualifiers all the time. So remember this in Android, I think one of the most powerful flexibilities on the platform. So in this case, I'm just saying, for example, you have the values -JA for strings, so you can Japanese text for all the strings, but you also can use the drawable. So remember, for example, there's, I don't have the numbers here exactly, but for example, there's my colleague that works with game business development for Brazil, and they have some people developing game for Korea and Japan. They figure out that changing the icon a little bit, just using more color or different design, they had like 50% more downloads in Korea, for example, just changing the icon. You have like in Google Console, you have some tools to do this. We call store listing experiments. So you can change like A/B tests and changing icons. But how can I use different icon for Germany and for Japan? Is using this drawable dash and then the name of the country code. So, and also it's good if you don't have, if you're not familiar with how the system choose what qualifier shows first. We on the developer.android.com there is a list of how the qualifiers, but just doing a very brief explanation. In general, all the language specific, they have priority over the other language on the other qualifiers. So, for example, if you have drawable and then HDPI, something like that. But then you have drawable Japanese. The Japanese will have a priority over the resolution-specific folder. So make sure you have, for example, if you are choosing different formats, also make sure you are using different resolutions for each icon, for example. But this is something that's very interesting. The only exception for this, not exception, the only priority over the country-specific, the country-specific is when you have mobile network number specific. So for example, if you have the country code in the mobile for the SIM card, these have priority over the language in this case. The only case that, right? And please, when you're doing your strings.xml, remember to provide some context, because, of course, maybe you're starting by yourself, but then when the teams grows and you have more people there, they have no idea about what this string is about, because there's some names like TXT, LBL name or label, this crazy name, so give an explanation about that. You can also mark parts that should not be translated, because then the system can understand about some, okay, this is a city name that I don't want to translate, so it's okay. And use the Android context for manual locale lookup. So sometimes you want to check if it's a specific locale, you can use the context. This is the best option to check because the user just changes, for example, the settings. You can check in live, you can check on the context what language the system is using for your application. And please test it, test it. And not just only some automatic tests or some screen tests, but test like if it's possible, do an open beta or closed beta, but ask people from different countries, different cultures to test your app. Because sometimes you're not familiar with that language. Again, let's use the right to left example. For example, I'm not familiar with the right to left. Then I can ask a Japanese friend to take a look and see how it's fitting, how the font is looking like, this kind of thing, that you not have the ability to see if it's really good. And please, again, I'm saying please many times, but this is important. You can use the translation service right from the Google, the Play console, or even from the Android Studio. You have an option to send the XML from there. And why this is important? Again, we have some particular ways to say a word in a country that probably is better to have a professional translation service. And at Google, I think 3 or 4 years ago, we started offering this service from the console because now it's like a shared service. So a lot of developers are sending the XML, and so these vendors can offer a better price. So probably you won't find any price cheaper than that. For example, translation of 200 words in one language is 7 cents per word. So it's very cheap, and the quality of your app is going to be very, in my opinion, the quality will be much higher if you use this kind of service, right? So why this is important? Why I'm talking too much about translation, localization? For example, at Google Play supports paid apps and apps purchased in 139 countries. So you can expand your consumer market, right? For example, I started working on software industry at almost, I'm old already, so yeah, almost 17, 20 years ago, and I was working on a consultant firm that we used to do foreign external trade software. At that time, to sell a software, you must take a car or airplane and go to the company, like a team with 5 people, and do all the implementation stuff, put the servers or install in each computer with the CD or download an image. And today you can just sell your app for 139 countries, different languages, different cultures, from your home, from your office. You don't need to deal with credit cards, or if in Brazil it's carry billing, if it's a national card in India, so you don't need to care about how you're going to receive the money. So the platform will do this for you, and then you receive the money. So sometimes we just think locally when we are starting to develop an app or a business, but this gives you the chance to expand very fast. And so, for example, just giving here a context. North America have 366 million people, and Latin America and Central America have 658 millions. Of course, Africa is one of the biggest here because you have India together with them, so you have 1 billion people in a single country. And of course, Asia it's like 4.5 billion, 59% of the population is there. So if you think about only, for example, we are here in Europe, it's okay, it's a good number, it's 743 millions. Maybe it's gonna be less if you discount UK, I'm kidding. So what we have here, it's like you have a huge market here, for example, 85%, and you have a lot of big market here that in general are just ignored by majority of developers. There are for many reasons. You have problems with servers, you have problems with language, you have problem with accepting the payment methods. But remember, okay, doing English, you can of course, you can reach almost everybody, say, hey, almost everybody speaks English. Maybe it's a reality here in Germany. I don't know how the country exactly, but for example, in Brazil and other countries in South America, only 3 to 5% of the population speaks English. And less of that, they feel comfortable to using an application that is in English. They prefer, even though your application is the best, your app is the best option for that task, but if they have an option in the local language, probably the local language will be the first option. So, and sometimes the extra work that you need to offer your service to that country is just translation sometimes, because all the payment part can be done through the Google Play. So this is why I'm insisting on showing this map and showing the population of the world, how the distribution is, but it's important. And again, I think 3 years ago, we created this Building for Billions Best Practices Framework. You can watch the session we did at Google I/O 2016, I think. I was on the presenter of this session, where we explain what things you should think about when you are developing for these countries. So, of course, the 4G network here is amazing. I was using the hotel. It was better sometimes than the hotel network, but this is not a reality in other countries. So, for example, if you rely on a big amount of data, you rely on downloading all the time and doing parsers or parsing the information like big JSONs and etc., maybe this can be a problem in your application in these countries. For example, the APK size. It's very common to see APKs with 60 megabytes, right? 60, 50 megabytes, right? We recommend for these countries, for example, up to 10 megabytes. Because you have in some of these countries, you have a limitation, you have like a limitation of data they can use per day. So guess what? Between downloading your APK with 60 megabytes and watching the movies on WhatsApp or going to Facebook, probably they will stop to download your app and keep navigating on this other stuff. And say, okay, when I'm at home or when I have Wi-Fi, I'm gonna download this APK, but probably they're gonna forget that, and you miss the opportunity to have one more download to your app. So one thing is I'm just saying one thing, if you want to see more, for example, about how you can optimize your network connection, so prefer text over image, review the image type you are sending, for example, PNG, prefer use WebP, for example, instead of PNG. You can do some prioritization, for example, when showing a list with topics for a list, you can, instead of always showing the icon, you can start with the text and have some images as placeholder, then you replace when you download it, because majority of the case, of course, I'm excluding here if you are a music app or if you are an image app, but in general, the image is not the crucial part of your list. In general, the image is something to complement experience, and the most important is the content. So prefer text, and in general, text is much lighter than image to download, right? So we can do this kind of optimization. I won't spend too much time here, because I want to go to the monetization part, but if you are thinking about expanding to emerging countries, please take a look on Building for Billions, and come to talk with me anytime. I can give you a picture about Brazil, about other countries and emerging countries. I'll be on the booth today and tomorrow. So now let's talk about net billing and subscriptions. So basically, we can expand, like I said, you can expand your consumer marketing, selling your digital content of the country supported by the Google Play console. So basically, we have I don't know if I'm not wrong, I think we have we cover 190 countries for free apps, but for paid apps and free and subscriptions, we cover 139, like I said. So it's places where you can offer subscription in-app purchase, and the user can pay using the Google Pay. And then you can use in other platforms as well. For example, Google Assistant. You can, if the user purchase a subscription in your Android app, they can use the same subscription on Android as on Google Assistant. So it's also a good way to expand the ways that you are reaching your user. So first thing, you can choose your product price. This is the screenshot from when you are creating a subscription. So the default price, it's always in US dollars. And here is one thing, for example, here are the countries that I'm supporting in this case, and I put $1, then I did refresh exchange rates. And it calculates automatically to me, so I know what the price the user gonna see if they are like on Bulgaria or Belgium, they will see like a different price. But sometimes in general, you see the price, it's more expensive than $1 and the currency value, right? And what the problem is, how you know that it's a real good price? So how you know that you are not charging too much or too little for your product in a different country? One thing, of course, you can calculate, for example, okay, to sell this to Brazil, I will need to run a new server on that region to reduce the latency. I will need more servers. If I expect to have 10,000 new customers there, I need a new server, I need more API quota. So you can calculate this extra cost you're gonna have. But also, you can use the Big Mac index. Everyone heard about the Big Mac index? No? You can search on The Economist. It's a much complete explanation, but basically, they had a study between, I think, for the last 20 years, something like that. They compare the Big Mac price in different countries, so they can say, okay, like a Big Mac in US is the base value, and then they have like a variation about how is the other cost of life in different countries. So for example, in Brazil, I'm using Brazil as an example because it's the country I have more, I live there, so I have a better understanding. They said that Brazil is 20%, almost 20% cheaper than US in terms of the price because of the dollar. So you see here the Brazilian BRL was 379, and then if I apply a different value, I can change $3 here. Sorry, 3 reais, Brazilian reais. And then you can uncheck here, because if you keep checking, then you click on refresh, of course you lose the value. And some countries, for example, Brazil and other countries that you can come here, you can define specific prices for this country. So even though, okay, I know that 3 reais will be the fair price according to the Big Mac index, but I want to have how can I say, a stronger entrance on that country. I want to lower the price as minimum as I can. For example, $1 is 99 cents the minimum for dollars. You could use the minimum for reais, that's 0.99 cents as well. But for example, for India, I think it's like 100 rupiah. There's some countries, there's some limitation on the value, but you can change each country specifically for a value, right? So this can help you a lot on this when you are introducing your product to a new country, or you can make it more like it's more, I forgot the word. It's more, people will be not afraid of your price, because sometimes you just convert the dollar, sometimes you can just be afraid of the value in many countries. And for example, sometimes you're gonna you have some location restrictions. It's most apply for example, for stream services, right? You have some DRM limitations, or this video has a geographic localization. So the first options, Google can check for you if that product is suitable for a specific country. When you are adding every product we call SKUs, right? So it's the way we call product IDs on the Google Play console, we call SKUs. When you add a new SKU, you say, okay, this SKU, it's valid for this set of countries. And then if the user tries to buy something, you have a method that you're gonna call that, I'm gonna say the name of the method later, is get async query SKU details, and Google only return the products that the user can actually buy. So there's no risk the user is buying something that you are not allowed him to buy. But imagine you are creating, again, you started here in Germany, then you are starting to sell this product in the US. And you want to have a different product for US because you have different agreement with supplier or something like that. You can create a different SKU only for that country, for example. So it's up to you how you want to manage that. But remember, when you get these products, we are already giving you some information. When you are using your different SKU, maybe you have to deal by yourself with some changes. So here on the code part, for example, you have here the SKU details response listener. Oh, sorry. The carry SKU details async. This is used on the billing client. Just to give a more context, this is part of the Play Billing library. Who's here is familiar with the Play Billing library? Okay, cool. For the other that are not familiar, the Play Billing library is a client library that we created at Google to help you on using the in-app billing. Because although that you need to use like IPC communication, use an interface, connect to the service, bind to the service, check the connection all the time, create the JSON to communicate for yourself. So we create this client library where you can create an instance of the billing client. This billing client will have your signature, your package details, and then it will do all the communication with Google Play for you. So I'm gonna show you some links at the end so you can check, but I think you're asking to the Google Play what products this user can buy from my products list. Remember when I said if the product is, for example, you can set the specific country. So if I'm here in Germany and I try to use this, probably the products I see can be different the products I do if I do the same query in Brazil, for example, because you can maybe some products will not available there. And of course, like if it's just async, so you need to implement this response listener and why it's async? Because this list we query from the Play server almost all the time. So of course there's a cache, so to avoid network consumption. But since you can change the product list anytime we do this checking the Play server, so this is why it's async, because it consumes time. And the SKU details params, it's an object that you can fill some params. For example, the type of the product. We have two types. We have one is subscription, and the other is in-app products. So what the difference? Subscriptions is the user will be billed on a specific cycle of time. So you have monthly, bi-monthly, 6 months, yearly, and seasonal. And in-app products, for example, when you buy coins for your game, or you can purchase a premium model. So you have the free part, and then you buy a premium access. You can just buy one time. The difference is because the billing will keep billing subscription will keep billing the user every amount of time you define, and the in-app purchase you just bill it once, and you get the product for you. If you, for example, if you are selling coins in your game, and then you need to buy again more coins, you have to consume that coin, and then you can buy the coin again. It's like what we call consumable products. If you're not familiar with that, no problem. There's a full session on our site that goes through all the implementation journey, how you use NetBeat in your application. And if you have any question, you can come talk with me. And here it's about when you use this method, get price, again in billing client, on the class SKU details, these SKU details will be returned by this method. So you list all the SKU that the user can buy, use the query SKU details, and then you do like a loop for this, you iterate over this array string, and then for each product you can check the get price. The get price will come formatted and with the final price for that user, including the currency symbol. So euro gonna be the I, correct I, in Brazil will be R and dollar sign, dollar just dollar sign. So you have the formatted price according to the user account, okay? But if you want to show, for example, a different price, or if you are offering a discount or something like that, you can call the method get original price. Because, for example, for subscription, it's possible to offer the introductional price. Like the introductional price is, okay, for the first 3 months, gonna be $1, and for the other months, gonna be $3. So you want to show this original price of $3 to calculate a discount. You can use the get original price, and so, hey, you are having like $6 of discount. Okay, you have $6 of discount because you are buying this package, something like that we call introductional price. But okay, Neto, how do I know that the user is in a specific country that I can't offer? Actually, Google, if you use the Google, the Android APIs, there is no official way to know in which country the user is from the API, right? You can check using the GPS, you can use by the user account when he registered to your server, but the Google account country, we don't share this because it's a personal information. So when the user purchases a subscription, you can check the code with the country code using the Google Play Developer API. So after the user did the purchase, you can check the country code. But before the purchase, if you want to offer a specific discount or specific message, your app must do what you need to do for your specific condition, because we can't show the user location, the account location because of the privacy concerns. But here you can use, for example, the GPS geofencing, or if the user registered to your service, you can just get from there, or you can ask, or can use geolocalization for the IP, but remember that's VPN and other bunch of things. But this is the way you can do this if you have restrictions in which country you are offering your product. If it's a subscription or an app product that you don't care about where the user is, don't worry, just use a query, SQL details, and be happy, right? So what is next? Here in the Google Play billing overview, it's a full journey developer implementation. So if you are starting now, you are not sure how to use in a billing, what conditions, what kind of products you can sell, check this overview, then you can see exactly what the steps or how you configure your product, etc. I think the organization, they asked me to send the slides, so on the slides, the final slides will have the links, so you can click on this information, so if you don't want to take pictures, don't worry. But if you search for the exact name that's in the slides, you're gonna find this in the developer.android.com. So, okay, so this billing overview is like, if you are starting now, it's the way you should go, because there you're gonna have all the instructions for each step. And please, if you're not developing games, you can use the Play Billing Library reference. And why I'm saying not developing games, because this library it's Kotlin, it's Java Kotlin. And in general, game developers use Unity or another C++, C++, or C libraries. And then we don't recommend you to use this library with C++, even use GNI, because some attackers could use the code injection or download the code and use like a man-in-the-middle attack over the code injection. So if you're developing C++ games, we can talk later, but I don't recommend to use the library in this case. For the other cases, the library is the best option. And some features, for example, you can offer a reward item in your app. So for example, if you watch this video, I give you 100 coins, something like that. You can use a reward item and use this to watch videos or download another app and go back. And this feature is only available if you use the Play Billing library. So some of the features, they are only available through the Play Billing API. So this is one way to incentivize you to use the Play Billing library. So, and then some guides like localize your app and localization checklist and support different languages and cultures. This is what I mentioned, the first 3 or 4 slides about what you need to do to use the qualifiers, how you prepare your app, and how you use the strings. So it's a good point. And the building for billions. Again, if you're setting your app for emerging markets, for emerging countries, take a look on this guide. It has 5 sessions, like connectivity, battery consumption, performance, and monetization. On each session, we give you some best practices, how to avoid battery drain, how to avoid network low connectivity, and this kind of thing. Any question? No? Okay, so thank you.